Hello, 12th grade. What I'm going to do for you is I'm going to walk you through the PowerPoint of what you might have missed in class. Maybe you were absent, or maybe you might have just lost attention at one point. And I want to make sure that I am doing my best to make sure you have your greatest chance of succeeding for this chapter 7 in postmodernism, especially with the 1 week break we had that kind of mixed up between our lessons. So here is a little run through of the class and what you might have missed, just to give you an idea of what the test is going to be about. So we started the class, we started with Chiara's post, and we really focused on the idea behind postmodernism being about the fact that everyone's right because everyone's perception is right. You can't be inside someone's head to know what they see. So we use the example of this board game, for example, where the makers started adding little symbols to the colors because everyone was fighting over, is it orange or yellow? What are the different colors? Now there's no more arguments about it. You can't say you don't know because the creator of the game has literally stated this is orange and there's a symbol that is undeniably true. It's objective. Color can be subjective depending on your situation, but you cannot deny that symbol is the same as this symbol. So he tried to add objectivity to his game. On the test, I'm going to ask you to define postmodernism, just like I would any of the other worldviews. This is the answer I am looking for you to define it as. And yes, you have to write down this answer as it is. Postmodernism is a skeptical worldview, found as a reaction to modernism. Now, I don't have to read the rest because you're totally capable of reading it. You can feel free to pause the video and take a look. This is what's expected for tomorrow when I ask you what is postmodernism's definition. The context of this was talking about the white and gold / blue and black dress. I honestly do see, if you can see it over here, the bottom left is definitely white and gold. But I understand the majority of the class, 95% of you, see black and blue. We'll have to just agree to disagree on the truth there. We talked about how all of life, truth is defined by, it's a social construct. The fact that you might say, you have red hair, well, you come to agree with this conclusion because society has said this is what is true, and collectively we create truth. Another important facet of postmodernism is that postmodernists believe that we use our words and our language to manipulate other people. We simply are trying to manipulate. So this could be through politics, could be through teaching, different ways that we try to control people with our words. Have you ever tried to control someone with certain words? You probably have somewhere in your life, hopefully for the good, not for the bad. Postmodernism was a reaction from modernism. Think about pre, during, and post. So prior to everyone thinking everyone was right and no one was wrong, we'll say pre-modern if we go back even more in time. I did an example of this on the board. So if you go back in time, you had pre-modern, which is the church defining what's right and wrong. Modern, science decides what's right and wrong. Postmodern, saying church can't tell me, science can't tell me, only I can tell myself whether it's true or not true for myself. So modernism was a strong belief in human reason. Empirical, as in like if I can see it, taste it, touch it, smell it, feel it, it becomes true. And it was specifically skeptical of religion. I'd be skeptical too if I grew up in an era where the church was making claims that seemed to be false and did not line up with truth. And if science comes along to give me access to that truth, I might fall to that same conclusion. So what is truth we talked about? We talked about postmodernists see that truth is socially situated, as in you create your truth depending on the society and the group that you're in. Again, it doesn't trust science or religion, and it's important. Note, truth is not objective, as in it's subjective, it's up to you. It's not universal, it's not for everybody. A universal truth would claim, let's say that we say that murder is wrong. Is that a universal truth? Well, I, as a Christian, strongly believe that there's a universal truth. Everywhere on the planet, it's always wrong. But a postmodernist might say that, well, for you, that's true, but it's not universal. You can't say it's for everybody. And truth is not neutral. They think that every time you say something, you're coming from a certain bias. Your truth is simply your truth because of how you experienced it. I talked about this as a reflection in a mirror that's kind of distorted, and I used an example of the movie The Matrix, which a few of you have seen. Now, the next part of the class was talking about what's the difference between objective and subjective truth. You can kind of take a look there as a reminder is facts versus opinions. If I say the capital of Iceland is Reykjavik, that's objective. If I say the best color in the world is orange, well, that's subjective. That's an opinion. Now, I might strongly hold to that opinion, but it wouldn't be universally true for everybody. To see it more as an example of language, I might say this costs £30,000, which is a lot of money because the euro is more expensive or is worth more than the American dollar. Now, if I were to say, is it also true to say that 30,000, let's say dollars for the sake of our class. If I said something costs $30,000, would you say it is expensive? Well, I would say for the majority of us, we would say $30,000 is pretty expensive. However, $30,000 is really relative to the amount of money you have. If you were to ask Bill Gates if $30,000 was expensive, he would probably just laugh at you. I mean, what would you do? How do you give a billionaire, what do you even give a billionaire a gift as? You can't give him anything that he couldn't buy himself. I'm going to be attaching in RemWeb or some place. If you can't find it in RemWeb, it's probably because you have to, it says family display. I don't know what that means, but you might not be able to find it on your personal student portal. So try to find it on a family display. If you can't find it, talk to another friend or maybe email me. But I'm going to send you the answers to the 7 assumptions of postmodernism. Now, just so you know, the first section, section 1 of the class, so first period, definitely has all these assumptions. So if you're in the 3rd period class, you can either try to find it on RemWeb or ask someone from the 1st period class. If you have it in front of you, I don't even have it on here, but there's 7 and make sure you see it on RemWeb. I'm going to have the link on there. I talked about in class the history of postmodernism. You kind of take a look at that. We discussed it in class. We said he was gorgeous. And eventually, someone who was really into his readings and who himself was a Christian at one point was Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche was the father of postmodernism, just as you might say Buddha is for Buddhism or Jesus is for Christianity. He coined the phrase, God is dead, and went on to even say that when God dies, only when his God is dead, then morality and oppression will die with him, which was counteracted in a more recent movie called God's Not Dead. So just to see the flow of time, the timeline here, Sophists, out of the Sophists, one of the famous ones was Gorgias. Nietzsche enjoyed and really liked the writings of Gorgias, and he himself then almost revitalized that thought. We mentioned Michel Foucault, reason because he is a modern-day postmodernist who strongly advocates for both structuralism and post-structuralism. The reason I put him on here is because he had a famous article where he talked about this is not a pipe, saying that this is just a picture of a pipe and your perception is all about, you're confused by it. So in order to give you a better understanding of what I mean by the perception of this pipe, I would have shown you in class the following video. Now, there's a fun video, I enjoy showing it for my classes, that I saw in a Brain Games episode on Netflix, between a person speaking, and depending on which of the mouths you look at, you would hear a different sound. Which sound do you hear? So if I were to play it for you, I don't know if it's possible. Let me see if I can play it for you without you seeing it. Let's go over here. How can I see it? If I go over here. Okay. Just listen right now to it. And this is what I want you to do. If you could please, for me, if you could simply cover up right now when it comes on the screen, you're going to see those 2 mouths. I want you to cover one of those mouths with your hand and play the video. Then rewind this video, go back, cover the next one. What do you hear? And go back and forth and try to see, and just for fun, if you can see this, do you hear a difference or do you see a difference? So take a look at this right now. I'm going to play it once and then you can, right now, so please put your hand up to the screen, cover up the man on the left, his mouth, and let's cover him up and let's listen to what he is saying.
Bar, bar, bar.
Strange as it may seem, what you hear depends on which video you're looking at.
Bar, 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 bar.
Now what I want you to do is take your hand. What'd you hear? You probably heard him say the word bar. Well, was he saying bar or was it possible he was saying far? Take your hand and now cover up the other person and now see what you see or what you'll hear, and you'll hear him swap. So feel free to go back and take a look at it. It's interesting that If I were to say you're right and you're wrong, well, that's really just your perception. Michel Foucault was fighting for this. He was explaining that it's all about your perception. No different than arguing about a dress of a color, no difference in arguing about what you're hearing and what you're listening to. He went as far to say that the words that we say, they literally actually do mean nothing until you interpret them in a certain way. So he said that that was definitely a part of why postmodernism was accurate. Truth is simply however you interpret it to be. I talked about in class how, well, I don't agree with that. There is truth that goes beyond what you believe. We call this in Christianity, as theology, absolute truth. There's an absolute answer. Now, we might fight about the color of the dress, but that dress definitely has one color. The man in the video was definitely talking, and he said a word. He didn't say both words, he said one word. Now, we may never know the answer to what he said, but can we at least agree upon that there was a word, one word that was said? The correspondence theory of truth says that we need to accurately line up with reality. Can we test it? Can we measure it up and see that it is truthful? This is the more challenging part of this, and so just to simplify it, structuralism is a movement that believes human knowledge is not based on an accurate understanding of reality. Everything you understand is simply a word. Like if I said to you dollar bill, well, dollar bill actually has no real value. And actually even the picture of a dollar bill probably doesn't have any value either. And then again, actually, if you go even deeper than that, the dollar bill itself doesn't actually have value. We have given it value. When I hand you a $100 bill, it doesn't actually have worth besides the fact that we as a society have made as a truth claim that it is valuable. This is what structuralism is talking about. It's the belief that we're just manipulating people by constructing these forms and this language in order to change people. Post-structuralism is a little different. It's saying that if you are looking at the world, we talked about this in class, or maybe we didn't get to in the third period class, but when you're trying to look at the world, you think, oh, I'm definitely right. I see a black and blue dress. I see a white and gold dress. He definitely said bar. Oh no, when she texted me, she definitely said this. Oh, when he looked at me, he gave me that look. Well, how do you know what they were really saying? Because between you and the world, even though you may feel like you have the truth, between us and the world, according to post-structuralism, you can't know the truth because you're gazing at that reality with a biased perspective. So for you, you can believe what you want to believe because through your eyes, maybe when you looked at gender, language, culture, religion, intelligence. I mean, the list can go on, but these are just 5 things I've mentioned that you should know for tomorrow of what can kind of filter and mess you up as you're trying to look at reality. Do you think that your religion might change the way you look at reality? Absolutely. When me and my unsaved friend are looking at a situation, even for advice, my worldview lens is going to have a very different opinion on what is true. Now, me and Dane could argue which is the right course of action, but you have to agree there is a right course of action. There is an ultimate answer, even if we may not come to that conclusion. You don't necessarily have to look at this. The seminary professor was in a class, and he just made up a bunch of bogus statements about Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Essentially, the man was trying to take the Bible and kind of make it to wherever he wants to be. I don't know if you've ever seen that in life, when Christians get together and let's say they're doing something wrong, and they literally start quoting the Bible to explain why their sin is acceptable. It blows my mind every time. Because while I'm all for reading the Bible, interpreting the Bible, and applying it, you better be careful that you know that when you go to tell other people this is truth, as God has stated, you better know that this is the author's intended meaning, AIM. Is this what God really wanted to say, or is it kind of what you wish it was saying? Are you adding in your own perspective in there? Deconstruction is the belief that the reader's interpretation is more important than the author's intent. So such as going to a Bible study where everyone gathers around and says, oh, what did that mean for you? What did that mean for you? I hate when that happens at Bible studies. I get why we do it. We're not all, Bible college and educated for biblical things. I gotcha. But there's just something strange about going around in a circle and saying, what did that mean for you? While we could all have an opinion, I once went to a church service where the woman said something crazy about killing her husband, And she said the Bible told her. And no one at the table explained to her that she was wrong. And I'm like, no, no, no. There's a definite answer, and the answer is God's never going to tell you to kill your husband. Now, he may be abusive, he could be mean, he could be nasty, but God's never going to tell you go kill your husband. So even if you find a Bible verse that says it, you can't. By the way, if you're looking for a Bible verse about that, the scripture says how we ought not to, and that vengeance is mine. Just to give an example of, definitely God's got your back. Maybe not in this life, but let me tell you, if someone's doing something wrong, God sees them. And he knows what's going on. So don't feel you always have to be a vigilante and take the things into your own hands. This is normally a fun part of the class. I didn't get to do it, but normally I do an illustration of Jumanji. And the reason I use this, and I'm not, this wouldn't be we can go down a whole separate tangent talking about this. But part of deconstruction is that you're breaking down what someone said so you can see what it means for you. You're trying to expose the ideology. You're trying to expose what they actually meant. This would be like you breaking down someone's text and trying to analyze it and trying to find out what it means for you. When I went to go see the movie Jumanji, I remember I probably am the only person that felt this way in the theater. But there's a scene when Jack Black is, he is the embodiment of this female character. And I don't know if anyone else you've noticed this. I know it's for entertainment and for fun, but I thought it was interesting that there was this play back and forth between these two men in the movie. Now we, who are behind the scenes, watching it as an audience from the movie theater, know that, well, the man's really a woman inside, and so that's what made it funny. But I also thought to myself, as much as it's funny and to be entertained by it, I also thought, is there something more here that the writers of this movie are trying to portray about the identity of a person? If the man, he really was a woman in this fictional world. Now, in real life, you can't do this. But in this movie, they found a way to make an avatar of a man with a woman inside that man. And so it was funny as a play on words, but if you were to really break down what they might have been trying to push through the culture, I actually did a little research into it on the writers of in the original Jumanji, this didn't happen. So I went back and tried to find what was there any underlying idea that they were trying to push this for the culture. I did find 2 or 3 different articles that claim that the writers who added this scene into the movie had the idea of making a playful play on the play in front of you about gender. And they did it on purpose. Doesn't mean that everyone's going to agree with it or change their mind about it, but they definitely had an agenda when they had it on the movie screen. Real quick, another famous postmodernist name was Jean Francis Lyotard. Yes, Lyotard is a funny last name. He said he just didn't trust anyone's meta-narrative, their story. He's like, I don't trust anyone's stories. The only person's story I trust is myself. If you remember from the beginning of the chapter, I talked about a woman named Rigoberta Menchú. I don't even necessarily know if I can trust her story, but if she believes it for her, it was true for her. Jean Francis Lyotard was just very incredible. I think that's a little far-fetched to say that anyone knows the true story. And actually, they have a big problem with Christians who claim that they have the story of life, the meta-narrative, the big story about Jesus coming into the world, that he's the only begotten Son of God. He is the way, the truth, and the life. Postmodernists, they see our story as a problem. It's our story. So that's just for us. We can't say that it's for everybody. So we definitely have a massive disagreement on that. Is there anything that we as Christians and postmodernists do agree on? And the answer is yes. The following statement, do we agree? What do you think? Christians and postmodernists, language can be used to manipulate people. Think about it. Do you believe this as a Christian, that language can be used to manipulate people? Yes or no? And the answer is yes. You do it all the time. I see it in my class. You try to, not manipulate sounds like such a negative word, right? But you definitely use your words to try to get out of something. Try to maybe get extra time. Try to get out of an assignment. We definitely believe language could be used to manipulate people. We, the postmodernists and the Christian, agree on that. However, do the Christian and postmodernists agree that all language is manipulative? And for me, the Christian would say, no, we do not agree with that. We do not think all language is manipulative. The postmodernist does think that, all language is. Do we agree or disagree? Culture plays a role in shaping who we are. I'm asking you, 12th grader. Is that true or not true? Do you think culture plays a role in shaping who we are? And the answer is yes. We agree on that. We agree that culture shapes us. Do we agree that we can't perceive reality as it really is? No, we disagree. I do believe when I look at the world is really as it is. We can get to know the truth. Do we agree our experiences contribute to who we are? Absolutely. Look around your classroom. Your classmates' experiences have made them who they are, contributed to making them who they are? Absolutely. We would agree with that. Do we agree that we can't judge between competing ideas? No, absolutely not. We disagree. We can judge between two competing ideas. If you claim one thing is true, and it's obviously not true, as a Christian, I believe we can judge, not condemn, big difference, but we are absolutely supposed to judge and analyze if something is true. And lastly, can words accurately describe objects in the world? Again, they think all language is manipulative, and our words are simply just words floating out there. Words are words, things are things, they say. Anti-realism is something you'll have to do on your own in the book. So it's the denial of the existence or accessibility of objective reality. So for the test, if I had to sum up the entire thing into this, the vocab words for the test where you have to actually know what the answer is, as in it's going to give you the definition, and then you have to write in the word. These are the words that may or may not be on the test. I would suggest you go in your book to the glossary and find out all those definitions. Put them on index cards. Flip them back and forth until you are ready for that test tomorrow. This is literally exactly what is on that test. This is the essay question. I'm going to ask this exact question. This is the question. The only essay question on the test is this question. And because I'm giving it to you in advance with my literal answer of how I would answer it in a classroom. Now, do you have to be as articulate as I? No, you do not have to be. But you better be close, because I'm giving you in advance a very thorough description of how to answer the question. What is the history between Marxism and postmodernism? This is the answer. You should know it by tomorrow, by the time that test starts. You can pause the video, study it on your own. I got all of this from chapter 7.8C, which is at the end of 7.8, if you wanted to read it for yourself and get a glimpse of what I am talking about there. Okay? With that stated, that's the end of this video. I'm going to be posting online the 7 assumptions with the answers on them. And if I can think of anything else, I'll post it on RemWeb. If you cannot see something, please reach out to me. But first, reach out to a classmate. But if none of you can find it, then please talk to me. With that stated, this has been an excellent prep for you. And I hope you do well on your test tomorrow. And happy studying. Okay, have a good night.